Welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Unveiling with your host, psychic medium, and lead investigator for the Paranormal Science Investigators team, Josh. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show while we talk about pretty much whatever the hell we want, as long as it's weird, true, creepy, controversial, or informative about the paranormal. So follow me as I try to give you a peek behind the veil. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Unveiling, and today I have a great set of guests that I've been friends with for a while. Highly respect them, love these guys to death. Can't say enough good stuff about them, and the evidence they catch is phenomenal. I mean, if you ever get a chance to watch their videos, I highly recommend that you do so, because some of the stuff that they get will blow your socks off. I'm not even kidding. But today I have with me Shannon from Spooky Communications and Paranormal Amy. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm glad
Thank you so much for the words. Yeah. I've missed you so much.
I've missed you guys too. It's been too long, and we still need to get to do a collaboration together. We've got to work on that this year. But so Spooky Communications, where can we find you, Shannon? What's your social media?
Usually TikTok under @Spooky Communication.
Okay.
And also the Paranormal Couple on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay. And Amy?
Now that's also
go ahead. Paranormal Amy on TikTok is my main. I do have a backup. I don't really get onto it, so you're more than welcome to follow if you want, but I'm not on there much. But one paranormal_Amy, that is it. And then we have the conjoined YouTube and then Facebook page. But he was getting ready to tell. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's fine. That's being worked on as of right now. We're revamping things, trying to start something new, go in a different direction. So, I mean, Amy's had this feeling that she needs to do something. She feels like she's meant to do more, kind of.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people are feeling that way right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a big shift going on. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
I agree.
But, so that will be changing in the near future. But for right now, it is still the Paranormal Couple on YouTube and Facebook.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
I feel it. Yeah, I feel it hard.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, in this shift, is that possibly a prelude to some of your psychic mediumship abilities? Are you feeling that coming in stronger, not as strong?
I don't claim any abilities whatsoever. I am me. If something comes to me, it does. If it doesn't, that's cool too. I open myself up for that sort of thing, and sometimes it works. I don't know how far I'm going to dig in with all of that just yet. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I would like to try to use those abilities more during investigations. I do feel like I'm learning to trust myself when I'm getting those little feelings or I'm getting the voices, and I just need to start listening more and start trying to use that instead of relying on equipment so much.
Right. Yeah. And I tell people too, because I do the same thing. And I went from giving readings to kind of setting that to a boundary of, using it for investigations.
Mm-hmm.
With a few exceptions, of course, but I like to see what I can get and what I'm seeing or hearing or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
See if I can correspond that to what my equipment gets.
Right.
which I know is something that you do. If anybody has ever watched your guys' live together, it's something that I've seen you do often. And I know, Shannon, you did some really cool communications near in the cemetery where your parents are, right?
Well, where my mother is, yes,
Where your
yes,
mom is.
definitely.
So I was watching a video.
Yes, every time I.
Right, and it was like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you guys get communication like nobody I've ever seen. Like things just want to talk to you guys, and I don't know how you do it, but it's amazing.
Well, it's when we first started. I truly believe when we first started, which was when COVID first hit, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was scared. Everyone was scared to get out. You know, you seen people out riding in cars with masks on. I mean, everybody was scared to death. Nobody was going to work. Nobody wanted to do anything. And, you know, we were just sitting at the house collecting unemployment basically. And I just come up with the idea. I was like, we've always loved the paranormal. We always watch and read about the paranormal. Let's go out. Since everyone's in their house now, let's just go out to where the people have already passed. So we decided to go to cemeteries, and we bought, you know, started with a SB7 spirit box.
And a K2.
Then we worked our way up. We started getting more equipment. But I truly believe that we go in cycles. When we started for years, we would go to the same locations, and we would just, you know, go in a circle. We would revisit them again and then come back, then revisit them again, and try to see what, you know, what the difference was in the atmosphere, what different evidence to get. And it seemed to me that we were the only two that were outside basically for such a long time and going through this, that the ones we did get in contact with we were familiar to them. So it was kind of like there was more open communication at certain locations that we have already visited, because they were like, hey, these people will actually listen to you. So if you have something to say, you know, now would be the time, you know, talk to these individuals. But the most I've ever received has always been at my mother's grave. Always. I don't know what it is, but I mean, it just makes my heart race every time I get there. I mean, it's something.
If anybody's ever seen the videos that you post about that, and I bring up that specifically because it was, to me, it was very moving experience, because you've got some pretty heartfelt stuff that came out of the communications, like very specific to your mom. And that's why I like the videos personally myself, because it's more of a real genuine interaction, and it's very intelligent.
Right. And it's something I weigh in myself a lot, because, you know, of course I've got a sister and I've got a brother, you know, my father's still here. And I'm like, you know, I hope they don't see this, and it, you know, it makes them like, God, I wish Shannon wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? So you kind of weigh it in your mind. You're like, I hope I'm really not hurting anyone's feelings. But I think they truly do see that my intentions are pure when I'm out there. I'm just not trying to, you know, get views or anything like that. I'm just trying to prove that there is life after what we think is life right now. Like death is an illusion. You know, I mean, it is. I truly believe that we just move on to something else. This is a constant learning and growing experience. You know, they say life's nothing but change, and I've always agreed with that. But change continues to go even after this life.
Right.
So
100% agree.
You know, there's so much of it that we don't understand, but I can feel it, you know. Like when you're a spiritual person, you can feel that inside you.
Right.
Which is the big difference between being religious and spiritual. You know, one's taught by man, one you feel. So there's a balance to that too.
Right. And I, like I said, I really enjoy watching the interactions that you have. Not just on those videos. I mean, the stuff that you guys do is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but just as like being able to connect to that sort of situation is easier for me, because, you know, my own father is passed, but and sometimes I feel like he's around, and that's why I brought up those specific videos when you go to visit with your mom is just one of my favorites. Now you guys go. Go ahead.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. It really is.
It
I'm
is.
glad you brought it up.
Right. And I enjoy a lot. Now you guys go to a cemetery that I don't know that you have any family in that cemetery, but the Wynn Cemetery, which is a
Mhm.
favorite
Yeah.
of mine that you guys go to. Um,
Yes.
and I'll tell you, I've been following you guys for not long after you started really
Mhm.
doing stuff, right? So I've known about you guys for a while. And I've seen the progression of the evidence that you're getting. To where I've seen some of your videos and I can swear I see somebody in the background as you're filming. And Wynn Cemetery is one of those places where I actually sat watching your live one day and watched you talk to a shadow figure move back and forth to where you asked it to go. And
Mhm.
I was just sitting there like, how do I get this to happen for me? You know, I was in awe. I was in awe.
That's very common there too, though.
Is it?
Very common.
Yes.
Yes, very common. We just have not came into contact or close contact yet with the real shadow figure
Mhm.
that is said to be attached to those woods.
Right.
Could that be because we don't leave that fence? I don't know.
Well, that's
But
the
we
thing
have.
too. I know during your lives, you and I have talked, and um, I've gotten the impression that there's something just outside that fence line that kind of watches you. And we've talked about this a couple of times where I've said, look, Amy, I don't know what is there, but there is something just outside that fence line, and I can not only see it, but I can feel it.
Mhm.
Which is one of the reasons why when we get together, that's one of the places, if we can swing it, that I would love to stop by and investigate with you guys, because just the sheer amount of evidence you guys have collected, that's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. That would be great. And what's really good about Wynn is it's on private property.
Mhm.
Like there'll be no outside interference whatsoever. You
Right.
got basically have a key to get into it.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, okay.
and the woman who owns the land, she's perfectly fine with us coming out there anytime we want to.
And
That's
if
awesome.
anybody comes up while we're there, she's right on it.
Right. She
Oh.
actually watches the.
Yeah, she watches the lives as we're.
You know,
we're-
I think I've heard you mention her in the live before.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, she always watches the lives.
that's awesome.
And I feel like we've been going there for a little bit, and each time we go back, I feel like we get closer and closer and closer. It's like gaining trust,
Right.
if I can say.
Right, but there's just so much about there's so much about the location we don't know about because the legend states that on the anniversary date is when the real activity comes, and we don't know what the anniversary date is. So
Really?
yes,
Right.
So when we show up, we're taking a risk. Is it the anniversary day or is it not? We hope it is, but your chances are pretty 365 days. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just one of those places that I remember earlier on when you were going there, you getting, K2 hits, cat balls going off, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it progressed up to the video where you had a shadow figure moving from gravestone to gravestone as you asked them, hey, can you stand over here? And then you just see this shadow move over to right where you asked it to go. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, we were all asking there, like, there's not a bug on your light lens or anything. And you guys are going, there's nothing here. There's just a shadow in front of us. Like, you can literally see it. And it was awesome.
And I think I even panned the camera and showed there was no bug, didn't
You
I?
did. You did. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
it's wild.
It's one of those videos that you're sitting there going, really, like, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, how do you explain this? There's nothing that would cast a shadow like that, and we see you in the video. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're standing by those stones and you're asking them to move. You've panned over to the light. There's not a bug on the light that's just moving around. Now, even if there was, I don't know how you would command a bug to move in a certain direction, but you know what I
Right.
mean?
And to do it so gracefully.
Right. Yeah. It was such a
So,
trip to see it. So
right.
I really enjoyed that place. And that's one of the places when we get together, I would love to investigate that spot with you guys.
Yes.
Anytime.
We can go there anytime.
So now you kind of
go ahead. Sorry.
you guys kind of well, Shannon kind of alluded to how you guys kind of formed up this paranormal team. Previous to that, what kind of stuff were you doing? Anything with the paranormal, or because I know like you
Actually,
calls and stuff like that. Were you into that kind of stuff, doing investigations? Had you done it before?
are you gonna?
I have had experiences ever since I was a little girl.
Mm.
Houses, scared to death, you know what I'm saying? Not understanding what's fully going on, and then starting to understand and be more curious. And then as I got older, keeping on having those experiences. I think probably the hardest one to deal with was probably being an empath.
Mm. Always is.
But yes, it's like really hard. I still struggle with it.
Mm.
But yeah, I've always had the experiences. I've always had the fascination because I don't have all the answers. None of us have all the answers.
Right.
So I figure why not try to see what we can catch and do it a little different than what you see when you sit down in your living room and watch some of the shows on TV. Not all of them, but some of them. We try to approach it with a kind and loving and understanding approach. And hey, we're here. We're going to give you a voice if you would like to take it, and we're going to listen. So I wanted to do it the way that I felt that for myself it needed to be done.
Right. A way that
So
it gives justice to those that have passed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm just
And actually,
I was just going to say your guys' investigation style is so patient and caring, and I think that that's really part of the reason why you guys, you've gone to these places several times and you kind of garner this relationship, and they really do talk to you. And I think it has a lot to do with the compassion that you guys show and the style of investigating you guys do, which I wish more people would do, to be honest with you.
right, because there's one law that's universal even for the dead. Respect is earned, not given.
Right.
So, you go there and you respect them. Sooner or later, they're going to learn to accept you and open up to you. So,
absolutely, 100% agree. And the more you do that, and the more that they see that you get that kind of, I don't know. It's for me, like on my personal property where I live, I kind of have a relationship with them. Like it's almost like a friendship. Do you guys feel the same way in some of the places you go where like you have a friendship?
Oh yeah, we remember specific names, specific stories. Sometimes even their family members will ask us to go. We've had people ask to go visit their mothers, their sisters, and try to get communication. we're our comfortable zone has always been cemeteries. Always been that way. And I think we will never stop going to cemeteries, but we may venture on into other areas of the paranormal that are beyond that as well in the future.
So you guys we'll also, I've seen you do investigations. What is it? Indiana State
Sanitarium. You're in sanatorium.
Yeah. Let me, and I've not been there, and that's one place I would eventually like to get to, but I know that I was watching your guys' live while you guys were in there for quite some time. And I'll be honest with you, I have a hard time watching paranormal lives a lot. Just because of the feelings I pick up or don't pick up. But there are a few people that I really enjoy watching a paranormal live, and you guys being one of them. but I know I picked up a lot of stuff that I wasn't quite sure how to communicate to you guys. Like, hey, can you check out, there's so many people that come in your lives. You had, 1,500 dang people in there, so it's hard to see comments. But um what was your favorite part of that, and what was something that you picked up that you weren't expecting at the Indiana State?
We've been 3 times now,
Yes.
and probably I've got several places in there that I feel like are the best. I really like the 5th floor on Adams Hall, and that it's just a different feeling up there, especially at night. It's a little more hostile at times and a little more fast paced, I guess, if you
Right.
will. Then I love the nursing home. Something about the nursing home.
I could see that.
I want more communication in the nursing home. There is so much sadness and confusion. And I know you picked up the confusion as well.
Right.
And I don't know how many times it'll take going back there to figure out that right way to approach.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I found it just yet.
Now, let me ask you, did you get anything 3rd floorish?
We got communication.
We did. And I also noticed that night, the last time we went, when Brandon went out to his car and it was just me and her, we decided to go to a separate, to a different floor. But when it was just me and her, different things started happening. And then when someone else would get involved, those things wouldn't happen anymore. Like other stuff would happen. So it was kind of like they were picking who they wanted to communicate with. And if there was someone else even nearby that could witness that, they wouldn't do anything. What we noticed when it was just me and her in that floor by ourselves, we started to get a lot of activity. And that told me either they weren't comfortable with that many people. It doesn't necessarily mean they were more comfortable with us. Maybe they didn't want to talk to 8 people.
Right.
They didn't want to talk to 10 people, And
Right.
I mean, that night it was pretty wild when me and her were by ourselves on that 3rd floor. But the main thing that sticks out to me about ISS is there's a ton of residual energy there, a whole bunch. And it is a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And it caught me off guard the first time, almost to the point where I was in there crying almost. And I wasn't prepared for that. Like, I walked in there, I was like, oh my God, this heavy feeling just hit me, especially in the administrative building for some reason. I was going up the steps and it hit me really hard in there. But I was prepared after that, the next time I came. And then that's when I didn't have to concentrate as much on, okay, I know this is just residual feeling. I can get over this. I started concentrating more on, okay, what's causing this? Where is it at?
Right.
How can I get a hold of it? So every time I go there, I try a different approach.
Right.
Well,
I feel like we've never caught anything like off the charts. Oh my gosh. At Indiana State Center.
Oh,
you think
there.
so?
I was about to say you never, but you're talking about that specific place.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some good stuff, but never anything that I'm just like, this is what this place is about. And I will continue to go till we find something and catch, what I know that place is definitely capable of giving.
Right. And it's weird because even just watching it, if you're a medium or you have those type of abilities, whatever you want to call it, it's really easy to even feel that through the video, to watch a live and feel that residual energy and that pain. And the reason I bring up the 3rd floor is, like I said, when you guys do lives, you have so many people in there. I know you can't read all the comments, but when I was watching your lives, I think you were kind of briefly going through the 3rd floor at one point. And
yes,
I picked up something as you were walking by a specific room, and I was like, Amy, trying to get your attention, but the comments are flying by. But
Mhm.
there was something on the third floor that I felt like, how do I explain it? Kind of hides there. Like that's it's not a lot of people hang out on the third floor, so it kind of just chills in that spot to be left alone.
Was it close to the room with the tarot cards?
You know, it's been a while and I can't remember exactly. Just remember third floor as you guys
Because
were
I can't
walking down the hallway, and I was like,
remember.
whoa, the room they just walked by. Like I can totally feel like there's something going, God, I hope they don't walk in here. But you know,
Yeah.
it was really weird.
Actually, before that, Brandon stepped in that room with us, and he was like, "Oh no." He's like, he turned around, and Amy was like, "Let's go in there," and he was like, "No, what's it say on the door?" I think the door said, "Stay out of this room" or something. It was spray painted on.
Right.
So it was real. The room was really creepy, and Brandon caught that feeling when he first walked in, and he left immediately.
Well, he was going to, what was he going to
Yeah.
do anyways?
I don't know, but he didn't want to be in there.
Right. So we kind of just trekked on through.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So what, I know this question gets asked a lot. What's your favorite piece of equipment that is your go-to every time? What do you have to have on hand? If you're going to an investigation, you have nothing else but this. What is it?
My favorite, but most hated by anybody who watches my lives, either the SB7 or the SB11. Preferably the SB11, simply because there's more to it and it's louder, but one of the two. But
Right.
everybody hates when I.
Right. Yeah. The white noise can get, and
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of it either, to be honest with you. And I use it all the time because that's my go-to is let me have my SB7. One thing I did find through Ghost Augustine, I found a mini ANC device, which is automatic noise control. And it's basically like you've seen those guys with the portal boxes and they have the white noise pedal on there. It's basically that, but it's maybe that big, and it runs in series, and you can kind of dial down the white noise so it filters out the white noise where you only get sounds. It's something that I'm going to be testing, which you guys might enjoy that too, because everybody complains about for an hour or whatever, but the problem is that device gets good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Power through that noise.
But, absolutely. I know it's frustrating, but if it's a good device.
Yeah. And I tried to recently hook the Stylophone Generation X1 up to it through aux and try to, cancel out some of that and clear up words. And I've been messing with a lot of that every time I go out just to see what settings are good. You have to
find the perfect setting.
Right. Sometimes I find a really good setting and you can hear the words better. And,
right. I've seen you using that. You've posted a couple of videos about the xylophone thing, which is a neat gadget in itself, how you were making music with it in a couple of videos, and I thought that was pretty neat. But I didn't realize that you could do that with it. But you guys might want to check out that. I think it's from Ghost Augustine. It was about $70 or something like that. But it's basically a white noise filter for your SB7 or SB11. And you just run it in series. And then what comes out your speaker is what you adjust it to. You can have as much white noise or as little white noise as you want. Might be something you guys want to check out. So let me also ask you, let me start with Shannon first. I've always gotten the feeling that you're an energy reader. Like you can pick up on energies when something's around and the feeling of that. Is that something that, am I wrong?
Yes. I would say maybe 80% of the time I do feel that way, especially when I'm out. But also there's been that 20% where things have snuck up on me and I wasn't prepared for it.
Right.
So I have been caught off guard too. But yes, I mean, in a sense I can feel the vibe in a place, or, feel the energy in a place and tell immediately if it's good or bad.
Right.
You know, there's never any doubt about that. I don't doubt that whatsoever. If
And you
I
have
if I
some
say I feel, then that's what I feel.
right. And you have some empathic type abilities too, where you can kind of feel emotion of a place, I think.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's more of I'm so open when I'm in that zone that their feelings can come into me too and try to come through me. You
Right.
know, which is kind of dangerous in some situations. So I'm trying to control that.
Right, right. Totally understandable. Is there anything else? Do you have any of the clairs? Do you have any clairaudience, clairvoyance, stuff like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I personally think that, in my opinion, everybody has something, they just haven't tapped into it yet.
True.
And that's the way I look at it. I haven't really, I mean, looked into it too much. I usually just run off feeling a lot,
Mhm.
but not feeling that's pushed on by wrong things like greed or views and stuff like that. I'm there to collect the evidence that I want to collect, and whatever that evidence is exactly what's going to be presented to the people that are watching it. It's not going to be
Right.
diluted or explained the wrong way to anyone who really doesn't understand what's going
Right.
on.
You don't
Because there's a lot of
dramatize
new
it.
people come and go through lives. So
Right. You don't dramatize what you get. You present it as in a factual manner of like, here's what I'm getting. Take it how you want to. Kind of.
yeah, I mean, like I was standing next to a tree in a graveyard, and an actual ghost just stepped out on alive, and everybody could see it. I'm not gonna throw my stuff. Oh my god! And take off running.
Right.
I'm probably gonna there and be like, oh my god, because I'm gonna be in shock.
Right. 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 Yeah.
I'm not gonna add fuel to the fire.
Right. So now,
Kind of
Amy, kind of the same question. How now I know you have abilities, whether I know you don't like to admit that sometimes, but how do your abilities present? Do you see, hear, have a deep knowing kind of thing?
See sometimes. I can hear sometimes with ears in my head sometimes. I definitely feel my surroundings. I can feel the energy. I'm very empathic. I sadly I don't like it, but a lot of times I'll know when something's getting ready to happen.
Feel
Usually
the
it's
energy
something
build.
that's not, oh my goodness, and it's the most anxious time of my life, and you don't know what it is, but
Right.
something's getting ready to come. Or sometimes I can think about things and they happen,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
even more.
It's almost like your guides are going, hey, just a second. Here's what's going to go
Mhm.
on.
Yes.
You know,
Wake up, Amy.
you and I are very similar to where I don't know if you get images
Sometimes.
where it's like in your mind I actually see them. It's always behind my left eye, and when I hear them it's with my right ear. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's like I hear them in my head by my right ear, or sometimes on occasion I hear them. It's almost like they're audibly talking to me, and I hear them with my physical ear. Is that kind of similar to how you receive some of your information?
When I see visions that have made sense, when I have been, using that sort of gift or whatever you would like to call it,
Right.
mine is in front of my face. I see just straight in front of me, both eyes. I
Almost
don't
like
have
it's
like
blocking out your physical vision with
for a minute,
that
yes.
image. Yeah.
I still remember one, I was half asleep, half awake. And this still, like, I know this happened. I know I seen it. And I worry about it to this day. Like, it still bothers me. I remember I was driving a car. I had a blue jean jacket on, with the white fur on right here and on the sleeves. I
Mhm.
had a cowboy hat on and jeans. And I was in an old Chevy roundish, pickup truck, the old
Mhm.
school ones. And I ran into a tree. And then I just sat straight up. And I was like, just sitting there like, that just really happened. I don't know who it was, but I know it was a while ago. And this was probably what, 8, 9 years ago?
It was a while back.
And I still randomly think about this. I don't know who
Yeah.
this individual was, but it was a male.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had similar experiences where, I drive for a living. I don't drive big rig, but I drive a hot shot style truck. Where I've had visions that were so strong, I had to pull over because I couldn't see the road anymore. All I could see was
Mm-hmm.
vision. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like my vision was their vision. So I was
Mm-hmm.
seeing what they were seeing, not what was actually in front of me. And I had to pull over a 34,000 pound truck and trailer because I was going to crash because I couldn't see anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had lots of stuff, look over in the passenger seat and somebody's riding along with me. It's
Right.
so I completely understand. It's a very, I don't know, it's almost overwhelming sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Because I know that this individual passed that way. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know who he was. Wish I did. And why I was the one seeing that because I don't know who he was. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot of questions for that.
Now, where were you when this happened? Were you just at home?
Um, oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Another home of ours.
Well, because not that it doesn't happen while I'm just hanging around the house, but I find that sometimes that happens to me when I'm out and about and I just happen to be in an area
Right.
where it may have happened, or they
Mm-hmm.
just may be at the moment and they're like, oh, that guy knows, and it's like they come to you like a magnet and show you
He
something.
could have been, because it's like I get a lot of comments. You don't really think that they just hang around in the cemetery, do you? No, I don't think that everybody just stands by their headstone tapping on it,
Yeah.
just waiting for me to show up. I believe they feel that door is open and they come on in. Whether their body is in that location or they're just around and feel it. So, I mean, possibly, I guess if I think about it, maybe I wasn't trying to control shutting myself off. Maybe I was just wide open for this individual. I don't know. But it really still worries me to this day. And I
Right.
know you understand.
Yeah, absolutely understand it, but I think this, that you're kind of like a beacon, like a lighthouse in the dark. When you're
Absolutely.
able to connect like this, it's almost like they can see you from miles away.
Mhm.
I mean, I've gotten communications from, and very direct, specific communications from people who are buried, a mile or two down the road, and I'm at my
Right.
house, and I'm like,
Right.
how would they know to come here? Well, they see that you're like a beacon on the other side. They see you
Mhm.
and they go,
Very
oh,
true.
let me go over there and see what this guy's up to.
We're like those towers that sit at night and have the little flashing light
Right.
above them.
Right. 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 That's exactly
And
what I describe it.
the yeah, and the more that you get into the paranormal, into investigating, into anything spiritual or anything in that direction, the deeper you go, the more the light shines. Just a little brighter each time.
Right.
I really love that.
Right. The stronger connections you start to get with yourself,
Yes.
because it's not just about the connection with the other side, it's about connecting
Right.
to your own self to be able
Right.
to allow that to happen, or to be able to connect to the other side. You have to be strong within yourself too. And I think
Absolutely.
the more confident you get with what you're getting when you go out investigating, if you have those abilities, I think they get stronger and that light gets brighter, just like you said. 100%.
Hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree.
I do too.
And you find it a lot with paranormal teams where all the members have, well, not every one of them, but you find the people that are really in this seriously and have been doing it a while kind of can feel when something's around. I
Right.
think just you become in tune with it. Now what degree
Absolutely.
that it comes through to you is different for everybody, but I think you just generally, as a true investigator, kind of naturally, through natural instinct, are able to sense things that not everybody else would sense. But so let me ask you a question.
Right.
What has been your favorite evidence? And I don't mean what's been the coolest thing, but what has been your favorite evidence, something that's moved you, what has been really cool, anything in the scope, but not just I'm not asking that question like what's the spookiest thing you've seen, like what's the, in your heart, the best evidence that you've ever got that sticks with you all the time?
My probably most heartfelt evidence that I never was able to share. You may have been the live, I'm not sure, but the ones that were in this live, they know. I was in our old house. We were doing a live, and one of our good friends, who is one of our mods, and he is a darn good mod. One of his family members come and started calling for him through my spirit box. Everybody runs to go grab it. He was modding for somebody else that was live as well. He leaves, he comes in, and the family member proceeds to tell him things that are very personal and things that he is looking for. And I just sit back, here, it's your moment. You tell them what you need. They're here, they're listening. And that was probably my favorite evidence. And like I said, I couldn't share it. I just couldn't, because it was really personal.
Right.
And it was kind of awkward to be doing it that way.
Right.
But, he was cool. We flowed, and the ones that were in there, they know. But it was my favorite, most heartfelt. Wow. Okay. Okay. You knew I could get to him, and you were able to. So that was probably my most favorite.
And how about you, Shannon?
I remember that. I would say in the attic at Bethlehem Academy was probably the most. It was almost shocking, because what's weird about us is we were capturing paranormal evidence before we even started investigating. Yeah. Like, we used to live in an apartment that was really bad, and we got awesome things on video there that it's undeniable.
Right.
And one of the scariest situations I've ever had in my life happened there. A sleep paralysis episode, and it was absolutely terrifying.
Oh, wow.
But Bethlehem Academy brought everything out of me in that attic that day on that necrophonic session we did. It was absolutely crazy. It was insane. I couldn't believe the answers we were getting. And I mean, there was someone there that was filming us at the time. What's his name there? Mig was with us.
Yeah.
And someone else. And I was in shock. I'll never forget the attic of the academy. The academy's still my favorite place.
Wow.
Period.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. I always like to ask that question because, a lot of people will ask that question, like, what's the best evidence? Well, I've gotten some pretty cool stuff, like, shadow figures on film. And that's really, that's really good evidence, but that's not my favorite. And a lot of my favorites I can't show the video of, I can kind of tell the stories, but like the ones that really hit you in the heart. Yeah. That stick with you for a long time. And that's been the same with, most mediumship reads that I've given to people after it's done. Like, you asked me the next day what I said, I couldn't tell you. But there have been a couple that really stick with me, that I remember, the generalities of it, because it was really heartfelt. But so I always like to ask that question, like, in your heart, what sticks with you,
Yes.
What's your
I'll
favorite
never.
locations to investigate so far of all the places you've went? What's your favorite?
Mine's easy. Mine's always Bethlehem Academy, without a
Okay.
doubt, in Elizabethtown. That is my number one place.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love to go there. That is definitely. Um, it's gonna be between probably Bethlehem or just a good old local country cemetery.
Right.
Whether I catch anything or not,
Right.
just going and enjoying the peacefulness. You know,
Hmm.
that's probably, I don't know,
I,
just
I
that's my thing.
absolutely understand.
I know.
In most cemeteries I've been to, I've caught most of my evidence outside the perimeter of a cemetery because most of being inside has just been peaceful for me. It's just like,
Mhm.
just the reflection kind of, I guess. But so let me ask you a controversial question, right?
All
A
right.
lot of people think this is a little controversial. Um, People who would call themselves a true investigator have a hard time with TV shows. Mostly, like for myself, I have a hard time with TV shows because I don't think they show the realistic side of what we actually do and what we go through to get the evidence that you see. Is there
Right.
a TV show that you do enjoy watching of the paranormal?
Hmm. With I more so probably an investigator would be Katrina Weidman. I really like to watch her.
Right.
I I
From Paranormal
and
State, Portals to Hell. Yeah.
yes, I dig her approach and I do like her. Yes, I like her. What
Yeah.
about you?
Mine would be Kindred Spirits, without a doubt. Amy Bruni
Yeah.
and what was the other guy's name? I can't remember his name now. It's
Adam.
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 Perry.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I love watching them too because
I do too.
they're really respectful. They go off a lot of EVP evidence,
Absolutely.
which is really legit evidence,
And different ideas.
right? And
Right.
and them two work very, very good together. There's some people that are very good investigators, and when you bring them together, it's kind of like a magnet. They push away from each other
Mhm.
instead of coming together. So like those two have always been very good at what they do together.
Right. Even when they were on
Not
Cap's team.
right.
Mhm.
Not saying that they wouldn't do well by themselves. I'm sure they absolutely would, but together they're more of a force, and a presence that, opens up spirit communication. I think them two together it's almost like a lock and a key. It opens a door
Yeah.
when they're together.
Right. And here's the thing is I'm in the Kindred Spirits camp. And it's not just because I think Amy Bruni is gorgeous. Okay. That woman is gorgeous. I don't care what anybody says. Amy Bruni is gorgeous. But and Katrina Weidman too. I think she's a good investigator. I do enjoy Portals to Hell because of her
So
approach.
I couldn't pick one show because she's got so
Yeah, she's been
many.
in several. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I most enjoy her in the Portals to Hell with Jack Osborne. Because I
Yeah.
think the two of them together, their style is very similar. They're very no nonsense of, let's go off of not everything is paranormal. So I do enjoy.
Boy, has he grown.
Right, right.
Yes.
From
Yeah, that was a
Back with
huge.
Dad on stage to Portals to Hell. It's crazy, and he's
It
had
just
shows beforehand.
yeah, just the beginning of the show to like what I have seen, he's really, grown.
Grown as an investigator, right? So
Yeah.
I do enjoy them, and Katrina Wildman she's gorgeous too, just my opinion. But
She.
and I am on the Kindred Spirits camp, but I enjoy it because of their DR60 and their Estes method sessions.
Mhm. Yes,
Phenomenal,
they
phenomenal.
are. They
and the
They are.
history that they research. Like they actually are showing you the research they're doing to find real answers. I think is more genuine to the field, and I know they have to, you know, kind of fit it in this time period, so you don't get to see everything. But I think
Right.
that show is probably the most genuine to a lot of the stuff we as investigators actually do. So I would agree with you on that one, Shannon.
I do look up to Coffee a lot too. I mean, he's an awesome,
Chip Coffee.
yeah, he's an awesome individual.
I have a little different opinion. I do like Chip Coffee. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I think as he's gotten older, things have changed for him. I remember seeing him when he was younger and more charismatic, I guess. So I don't
Right.
get me wrong. I love Chip Coffee, but it's just different now than it used to.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
not the same.
I kind of, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
He is getting, you know.
Right. So, and I have to bring up that one because it just kind of stirs the pot a little bit, you know, and everybody's like, oh, I like this show. And, you know, these people are, you know, crazy. And, you know, how everybody gets when we talk about TV shows, we're all kind of weird on what we like. But,
See, I like to watch the shows, but I think a lot of people who watch our content and lives don't understand that
There's a difference between real
What-
time and what's going
Yes.
on. Yeah.
they're going to show you the highlights. We're going to show you us twiddling our thumbs waiting for something for
Yeah,
a little bit, you know?
the down in the trenches work that we have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And theirs is totally different because they're not doing a 2-hour live. They're doing a 30-minute to maybe, if you're having a special, hour show. So
Right.
it's all
Packing it in.
made watch it and to show this is what I've got, you know.
Right.
So I get where some people hate the shows as well too.
For me, it's the dramaticism, I think, is a big
Mhm.
for me. There's been a couple of shows like, you know, most of us know the Taps team when they originally started,
Mhm.
you know, and then they kind of split apart. And when they split apart, Jason Hawes is actually somebody that I enjoy as an investigator, and his style of, you know, he doesn't
Mhm.
freak out. Like he's like, okay, well, let's explain this. Let's debunk this. Can we reproduce it? You know, very, you know, meticulous with stuff. But when they split off, he went off and did Ghost Nation. And some of the, I don't know if you guys have watched that one, but
Yeah.
he has caught some phenomenal evidence. And, you know, Steve, he kind of freaks out sometimes, especially if there's a spider. But, you know, when you see Jason investigate, it's it's like, whoa, did you see that? And then they go for it, you know, like they don't run away. They're not running away,
Right.
hollering, oh my God, it's a demon. You know,
Mhm.
so I
Not everything is a demon.
right. So that leads us into the next question. Do you believe in demons, and not just in the religious sense, like demons as in unearthly?
Absolutely. Absolutely do.
Yeah. I have no question. I believe in them.
No,
They may not have the same definition as some people
right.
may think a demon is, but I mean, they could be entities outside this, you know, outside this realm that
Right.
come in. I don't know. I mean, it's all about perception when it comes to that.
Right. Now, let me ask you, do you believe that you've ever come in contact with one or encountered what people would call a demon?
No.
I wouldn't think a demon. I have definitely ran into negative entities before
Or a
Right.
little
That have-
malicious.
that have
Yeah.
that
demon,
have
no.
you know affected my life. You know,
Right.
Like that sleep paralysis episode I had. Someone was banging on the door. I was on the bed. I tried to get up to answer the door, and I couldn't move. I was being held down. And they were like, Shannon, let me in. Shannon, let me in. And I was trying to say I'm coming, but all I could do was go, like I couldn't move at all. And finally, I snapped out of it and ran to the door and opened it, and no one was there. Well, I found out years later. I found out years later from a medium we know, and who's also a psychic, that was when the attachment started with me. I opened that door and allowed it in during that episode, and it followed me for years after that. We had to have our house that we just moved out of investigated when we first got there for a separate cause, which was I believe it was elemental in the basement, right? We had an elemental in the basement, but there was also another presence there. And when I told her the story of what happened, she explained it to me like, look, I know exactly what happened. You know, anytime you hear a knock on a door, I'll never forget this. She told me, anytime you hear a knock on the door, always look out first. If there's no one there, do not open that door. Right. And I feel that I was being held down. So when I finally did get up, I would run and open that door up. It was like an urgent thing.
Right.
So I kind of like it tricked me into doing it. But the 2 years that followed that were absolutely horrible. I mean, they were horrible. And having that kind of negative energy following you, it can destroy your life and possibly kill you.
I agree. I've had an attachment before that I walked out of a place with, and it tormented me. I think my mindset was a little stronger than a lot of people, where at first I feared it, and then I understood it, and then I was able to get rid of it. But I completely understand it can torment you. Like, am I going nuts? Am I crazy? What is this thing? Why does it keep bothering me? Like, it consumes you almost.
Yes, but I look at a good side of it. It sharpened me with being able to distinguish energies too.
Right.
Like when I run across something dark now, I get the same feeling I had when I was laying in that bed, and I know this isn't good. Like that, it takes that kind of experience to open your eyes up and, really understand what's going on, because not everything is out to worry about your well-being. There's also things that have their own agendas, that want to do things that might not be in your best interest. Right. So you have to keep that in mind too.
And I tell people, 95% of what you're going to come across, if you decide to investigate, 95% of it is not out to hurt you. It's not bothering you. It just, hey, you want to communicate? Well, here, let me try. But it's a few percent that, I don't think people understand can hurt you. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually.
Right.
Can wreak havoc on you. Let me ask you, with your experience, did you ever experience shadow figures with that?
Yes, I did a few times. It kind of progressed from seeing things at first and feeling things behind me a lot. And it was weird because when I would feel them behind me after this episode happened, I couldn't turn around. It was always when the presence was there, I couldn't move. So it would get behind me, and all I could do was stand there. Unless I was standing in front of a mirror, I couldn't see anything that was going on behind me because I couldn't turn my head. Right. I couldn't move my arm. I couldn't talk. I would just stand there, but I could feel it just right behind me, and I was frozen solid. Right. Like some of the weirdest things I've ever experienced came after that sleep paralysis episode. And I really do believe, like the evidence we caught there, that orb in the bedroom, like that's some of the best. Like, I'm not a big orb guy. Some of these orb I see, and I'm like, no, that's not an orb, that's dust. Or, that's lens flare. This is that. But this one,
I watched it with my own eyes moving, and I could see it in the camera and coming at me, and it just went in between my legs and went right on out the door.
Wow. Yeah. See, that's real orb experiences.
I would like for you to watch that video too. I'm going to have to send you that because I know you're like us, and, most of it's dust and debris and,
Usually when I hear
hair
orbs, I'm like, yeah, no.
Well, the place was previously, a woman had fled Katrina and came up there and lived in that apartment.
Oh, really?
And she was like from what we understand, sacrificing
She
chickens.
was
there?
practicing some sort of, I'm not sure. I don't really
There
know.
was blood in the blood and salt in the corners of almost every room. The landlord had to come in and like shampoo all the carpets like twice before we could even come in there. And you could tell that she was into something because there was salt over every opening that could possibly open in that apartment.
Yeah.
And we really didn't think anything about it at first. We thought it was weird, but then things started happening, and we knew then, okay, you know, this had kind of meeting. And one of the neighbors told us one day about it. We was outside. Do you remember the guy that lived outside next door?
Yeah.
He was talking about the lady. It's like she was buck nuts, like like had blood all over the place.
I think she just got in there and done a little bit more than what she bargained for.
Right.
Probably.
I think she opened something.
Right.
She didn't know how to close it, didn't know what to do. And or even maybe something followed her from down south to the new place. You know, I'm really not sure.
You know, I've seen and had cases where something similar. You know, people always talk about Ouija boards, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do that I don't think people understand what they're inviting in. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not necessarily intentionally. Like they have good intentions, but just because you have good intentions doesn't mean you're always going to get something nice, you know, when you're
absolutely. And always close those doors. You wouldn't leave your house and leave your front door wide open, because why? Everything's going to come in. You're going to close it. You're going to lock it. Close it when you're finished.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me ask you, if somebody came to you and said, hey, I'm really interested in the paranormal, I would like to do what you guys do, what would be the advice you would give them to start out?
First of all, I feel the most important thing is to learn how to protect yourself, learn how to close your doors. And a lot of people think that I can tell them like how they should protect themselves. And I really can't, because that all a lot of time will fall in line with what you believe. You know, what your heritage is,
right?
What you practice. So that's what I've suggested a lot, to start there and to start looking into ways of protection for your culture, for your beliefs. Because I can kind of guide you in the way or tell you how I protect myself, but it may not be the best way for you.
True. Everyone, I agree with her 100%, because that would be the first thing I would say. I would ask, have you had a DNA test? What's the biggest percentage of your culture? What are you, you know, a huge percentage of? Then look into that. What did they use to protect themselves? Because you have that blood in you. That is part of you. And what they used obviously worked for them. So it could more than likely work for you. Like someone from a different culture that's not necessarily mine may use something that wouldn't work for me, but it works wonders for them. So finding out where you're from, what they use to protect themselves, is absolute concrete foundation of going into anything like this. Because if you go into it without any protection, you're playing Russian roulette, and anything could happen at any time.
Right.
Crystals.
Right. And I tend to agree with you guys as far as I don't know that it has so much to do with your ancestral culture, but I think it really depends on your belief system, and not just a belief system. Like for me, I don't particularly use crystals to protect myself. I don't have like an incantation that I speak, or anything like that. For me, it's a deep sense of knowing that I'm protected, and my intention of protection.
Right.
And I don't just believe that works. I know that it works like 100%.
Right.
No, there's no faith in hoping this works. It's It's just a deep sense of knowing that my intention is set and it cannot be broken. And
Right.
and that has also come with experience too.
You have to have that confidence there.
Right. Trusting in that, having that confidence of it, to where I've seen what works and I stick with that now,
Mhm.
I think that's great advice, because I don't think people quite understand, like I said earlier, 95% of what you're going to come across is not going to hurt you. But you don't know if you're going to get part of that 5%.
Right.
You walk into something
And I
you've
think
never been.
people don't understand that just because you pass away, your personality doesn't always change. If you are a good, loving, kind individual in life, more than likely you're going to be so in death. But you do have those rude and evilish, malicious people in life that,
Right.
they cross or pass on, and they're not as friendly and kind and
Right.
sweet
Yeah.
in death either.
Yeah.
Right.
You
As
gotta
in life,
keep it
so in death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
When you're in this field, it's kind of like the old saying, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut, right?
Right.
It's eventually. So if you hang around this shop long enough, something's going to happen to you, and you better be prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Right.
not, you're going to need to make it better.
Right. And I think people need to make the distinction, because I've also, I've come across those that were more malevolent side. I'm not saying they were evil, or, I've had some that I feel were really just nasty people, and they're nasty spirits also. But I think you need to be able to discern personality, because I've come across some in some communication sessions where I had here at the house. They were very gruff people. They were very direct and gruff, and it sounded like they were just jerks. But
Right.
in actuality, it was just their way of giving you information.
Right.
We had communications on a live one night here. This guy was it was very just gruff and grumpy sounding, but what he was doing was warning me about a fire in my pickup. And the next
Right.
day, I'm driving down the road going, man, I smell gas. Well, I got home and my truck almost caught fire. And that's what he just had a gruff way of saying it. So I think you need to kind of be able to figure out how to discern. Sometimes there's grumpy people, but they're not really trying to bother you. They have a tougher way of saying stuff, and what's actually, just mean and nasty. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't understand their circumstances either.
right.
Like, how does it affect them when they do communicate with us? Does it hurt them? Does it, is there some kind of effect that we don't know about? So yeah, you're right.
Or
You
how
always
much
have to keep that in mind.
communication can they give before they lose their energy that they do have stored up?
Right.
So it's just a lot to factor in. Or what can you allow them to use what battery you have to pull from? Is there any, you know what I'm saying? It's just, there's all different kinds of different factors. You already know.
And
yes.
The thing is I hope in the future the ground that we've broke into the paranormal finally becomes more of a science instead of being called a pseudoscience. I think if spirituality and science would come together, it would complement both.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping in the future that we're able to answer that, but as it is now, you can't say, no, that's not right. That doesn't happen, because we don't really know.
Right.
You don't really know unless something specifically tells you. You got your SB7 going, and they go, yes, it hurts when I talk. You know what I mean? Like, unless they specifically tell you, there's no way we can prove most of the things we do. We just can kind of go, here's what I got. You take it as what it is.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way we've always approached it. Here's the evidence we got. You take it, and you can perceive it as you wish.
Right. We can't really answer the questions.
Right. And I do agree. A lot of this, in my opinion, is science. And we are pushed off in the direction of pseudoscience, and that's unfortunate because there are many things I've seen online and watched on TV that's just absolutely amazing, and I believe they should be looked into further. And they just don't take us serious.
Right.
But maybe one day they will.
Right.
Yeah,
and
I feel like
my hope.
What it was.
Oh yeah, it's definitely more accepted than it was, say, 20 years ago. Before, people thought you were just some nutty fool.
Right.
Where now it's a little more accepted, and I think a lot more people believe that there is something after this life we have here,
Right.
which is, I think, kind of the beginning steps of hopefully, maybe when I'm gone, like I said, science and spirituality can really complement each other instead of battle each other,
Right.
to gain answers, because I think there's a lot of answers to be had if we study it, if we really put
Right.
true effort into it. I think would be something mind-blowing. I really think it could be. Let
There
me ask you,
has to be.
right, yeah,
Has to be. Can't step outside on this little mud bog and breathe this air and look at these beautiful sights and not just know that there's more. There has to be.
right, and
Has to be.
and I agree. I've had way too many experiences for there not to be.
Mhm.
I've just had way too many experiences that I can't explain, not just with investigating, but with mediumship,
Mhm.
to go, yeah, there's nothing after. We're just worms.
Right.
I've had way too many experiences for there not to be something else. I can't tell you what that else is, but I know there is something. I really can.
Right.
So, how do you feel about teams that keep mediums on their teams? Do you think mediumship belongs in the paranormal investigation?
I do. I don't think there's a thing wrong with it. I think I think that you have your investigators and you have your mediums, and I think there's something beautiful when a medium picks this up and the device picks it up as well.
Right.
There's something beautiful when you get that little meetup in the middle.
Right.
It's just
confirmation.
Yes.
I agree with it when everyone involved is on the same page. Like if a medium says she has boundaries and she will not go any further, then that's the end of it. The investigator should not be pushing her into something that she is not comfortable with. Or him. But you know what I'm speaking of a certain situation that I've seen before.
Yeah,
and
I think I know the show you're talking about.
That's absolutely ridiculous. That should never happen. You should never push someone into an uncomfortable situation, especially a medium, when she's sitting there and telling you that it's dangerous and I do not want to put myself in that situation.
Right.
Now, all that should have been understood beforehand. If I'm ever at this point and I say I don't want to go any further, then that's the end of it. Right. But as long as everyone's on the same page, I see nothing wrong with it.
Right. And I think the problem is if you don't have those abilities, it's hard to understand what it's like.
Right.
For me, investigating is different than from you investigating, just because of what I pick up. I agree with I agree with both of you, but I agree with Amy that it really needs to have that corroboration. And as a medium, I hate proving myself, but I know that that's part of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I've seen too many times where a medium is like, yeah, there's this and this and that here, but they can't corroborate a damn thing. They can't even get a blip on a K2 meter, so I think it has its place. I just maybe so
it's got to be
right. Yeah, it just can't be so heavily relied on, maybe to point you in the right direction, and then let's see what we get. Corroborate, but just to be going off a word, I think it's just kind of, as a medium, I wouldn't want somebody to go, oh, well, Josh said that there was, a 10-foot tall, elephant in this room. But
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want somebody to just blindly believe that and never get evidence of it. So, and
Right.
and that's where I put myself in is, so for me to say it is, should hold a little bit of a little bit of weight. You know what I mean? Don't just blindly.
Right.
Um,
Right. There's definitely got to be a balance, but I feel like having a medium on the team, whether they're on your team or, when they can work with you, whatever, I think it's a beautiful thing. No, I don't think you should fully, like you say, rely on the mediumship the full time, but it's beautiful if you can use it. They can meet together in that balance and work each other out. Like, yes, I caught this. And they already said, yeah, guess what? She picked up on a Sarah. And 15, 20 minutes later, they said, Sarah said, hey,
right.
So
Right.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think in the right conditions and the right understanding, they could synchronize very well.
Right.
You
Or
know,
either, go ahead.
I've actually had a situation where, I end up having to prove myself a lot when I go on an investigation with somebody, even with, close people I call family to me, close friends, go on an investigation and I prove myself. I'm like, well, why do you call this spirit that name when that's not their name? And this actually happened. And they're like, well, we don't put that out there, but you're right. That's not their name. That's the kind of proof that I think needs to be had for
Right. Absolutely.
mediums on an investigation. Like I had no prior knowledge. All I knew was how they presented and the name they gave, but they gave that name out of respect for the family that
Right.
And the area. But I didn't
still pick it.
Right, yeah, and I was like, so why do you call her that when that's not her name? But I also said her name, what I picked up, and I was correct. I think that's the corroboration you need to have if you're going to have a medium on.
Yes.
They need to be able to do that evidentiary.
Right.
Yes.
If you want real answers, yes.
Right. If you're looking for the truth, yeah, you need evidence. But
that's what I think works together beautifully.
Right. So let me ask you another little bit of a controversial question. What's the difference between a ghost hunter and a paranormal investigator or researcher? What do you think the difference is?
Well, I think a paranormal researcher, investigator is someone who is out there looking for new ways, new techniques. They're trying to communicate. They are listening. They are looking to get the evidence and anything that they can get to prove that there is something on the other side. A ghost hunter, I guess, in it for the wrong reasons, maybe. I don't know. What do you say?
Well, I
don't know. I didn't prepare that one at all.
my personal opinion would be a paranormal investigator actually approaches it in a correct way.
Yeah.
Gathering evidence beforehand, looking into history.
Yeah.
Trying to help if they possibly can. Maybe the people in that location need help. They need it to calm down so they can continue living their lives in a normal manner. A real paranormal investigator would actually look into, sending help their way, doing everything they can to try to take care of that situation so they don't have to live in that, in that kind of hell anymore. A ghost hunter, now this is my perception of a ghost hunter. It doesn't necessarily mean it is the definition of one, but a ghost hunter to me would be someone who says, okay, we're going to catch a ghost tonight. Oh my God, I caught it. Did y'all see it? I got it on video. It's on video. And then they throw it online and there's no looking into what happened there beforehand. There's no, can we get rid of this?
Debunking.
There's no, did we try other methods to make sure this wasn't a shadow of someone else who was in the room?
Right.
It's just all hardcore visuals. and sounds and things that are not looked into any further. They just wanted something that was blunt and right there on the screen to prove to everyone else. That's the only difference I really see in it. And for me saying that personally, it kind of bothers me because I know that there's people that may call themselves ghost hunters who are actually paranormal investigators.
Mhm.
They just don't, see the difference in the two terms.
And vice
But
versa.
in my personal opinion, I think that, it's all just names we give ourselves,
Right.
To explain things that we don't understand. Some people are classified as ghost hunters and paranormal investigators, and I think the ghost hunter side of it gets more negativity and are looked at in a negative manner than the paranormal investigators are. And I think it's all because
Right. And I always try to put it simply where, like, I think a ghost hunter is somebody who's in this for the experience, to catch something and have the experience of paranormal, where an investigator or researcher is more into the science of explaining it, the truth of it.
Right.
And I honestly believe that they both have a place in the paranormal, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
even if you're just there for the experience of it, to have an experience or hopefully have an experience, you're still, if you're catching something, that's still something that, maybe somebody with more experience can go back and say, hey, well, they caught this here. Let's see if we can reproduce this. I think they both have a place in the paranormal. I don't think one is better than the other. I just think they're just different in style.
Right. And there's plenty of people that we've worked with in the past that, are maybe in it for totally different reasons. And we're fine with that because there's no set reason for this field. I don't give out the rules of who can be in it and who can't. I don't set the standards, and I don't, that's not my place. I'm just here like everyone else trying to figure out what the hell's going on because there's a lot going on.
Right. Absolutely.
And there was a time in my life where I didn't believe in any of this, and I've come across things that have changed my mind. It really changed my life. So,
Right.
it's helped me in the long, to be a better person.
Right. That's really good answers. I think that's a good view on it. None of us are experts. I mean, some of us know a lot. I know people like Real Gus Hunter 1. You ask him a question, he's probably going to be able to answer it with knowledgeable, because he's researched it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think there's some very smart people in the paranormal, but the truth of the matter is, none of us know for sure. None of us are actual experts. We may know a lot about the subject, but really everything we work on is theory. This is our theory based on
same thing.
Right. We're trying to catch the same thing. So I think there's a place for both. And I actually think that those that are just looking for the experience actually help in some ways of opening up the paranormal to somebody who wouldn't normally believe in that or think about it even. So
absolutely, because I've seen some videos on YouTube or wherever from someone who was just looking for the experience.
I mean, even people that are into urban exploration, that really don't believe in it. They a lot of people that are in the paranormal like watching some of that because they can say, "Wow, that place is creepy. Look, did you see that? Let's go. Let's try to go there." You know what I mean?
Right.
So it all connects to each other as a whole.
Right. And I say this because my son, who's 11, it's some of the things that he watches, and he understands that it's not all what it seems when he watches some of these younger folks on YouTube and whatnot. He kind of understands that because I've explained it to him. But those folks, as dramatic as they can be sometimes, opened him up to wanting to understand it more. So he's come to me with questions before, like, "Hey, Dad, I saw this. What do you think?" And I give him an open, honest answer. And a lot of times I tell him, we don't really know the truth. We have
Right.
theories about stuff because of the things we've caught. This may be a more dramatic way of showing you that, but it's opened him up to want to understand it, which I think is awesome. I think anytime it opens the mind of somebody, regardless of who you are or how you investigate, if it opens the mind of the viewers up to go, well, maybe there is something to this, and that gets them the kind of the wheels rolling to get into this, I think is great, because the more people that kind of accept it and try to find the truth, the better off the field is as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and everybody has their own personality, and they're not going to watch people. Some people might think we're boring. They might be like, "Well, I don't like watching Amy and Shane because it's kind of boring because they're just not our kind of people, and we don't, get together. We don't, we bump heads, but it doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong, and it doesn't mean that they're doing something wrong. It's just that maybe there's someone out there that's a better fit for them and could possibly open their mind to more things like you're talking about.
Or maybe they need a investigator with more energy who does
More pizzazz,
flip out a little, something happens. And that's perfectly okay, you know?
Right. See, I'm the same
But
way. I
we
feel like
all-
I'm dry. When I catch something, I don't freak out, and most of the time, I think the thing is I'm just doing it on the inside, like I'll have an experience and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Can we try to do that again? But on the inside, I'm going, holy crap, did you just see that? I'm thinking it, but I'm not outwardly and overtly being, dramatic where everybody can see, which I think isn't always the best way. The way I investigate sometimes, I feel like, man, it's just too dry. Like I should give a little bit of the emotion because, I've had stuff pop up on me and it scares the crap out of me. You get a jump scare. You didn't expect it to happen and you're like, oh crap.
I'm still looking for the location that really pushes me to the edge.
Right.
I'm looking for that. Not to where like dangerous or anything like that, but pushes me and scares me. I want not to be terrified, but I want to find my match, I guess, in locations. You know what I'm saying? I don't want anything demonic, but I want to find my match. I want a place to work at that I feel like, I don't know, just gives me a little bit more challenge.
Yeah. The only time I've ever seen her scared is when coyotes come around or something. So,
I remember that in a live. Like, we gotta go.
Yeah, time to go.
I hate coyotes. I don't hate them. I don't mean it like that. They're beautiful, but I don't like them around me when I'm trying to be out in the woods or wherever at night.
Right. And part of my problem too is, I'm a gray walker and I work more with the darker things that scare people. So going to a location to meet my match there is harder to find. And I know there's some places, and I've been to a few places where you get that feeling like, oh crap, maybe I bit off more than I can chew. My threshold is probably a lot different than your guys's, but I think that's a great way of thinking about it. You want to meet your match. You want to meet where it pushes your limits.
I want that heart to go, and I want to think, okay, well, what is the best move now? Like I want to feel my surroundings and just know that, like, okay, you're doing this and you got it, and let's push forward and let's do it. Not just feel completely peaceful and, every time when I go somewhere.
Right. And I think that's how you grow as an investigator, is when you have those experiences. You don't know what the next step is. So you have to really think tactically of, well, how do I do this in the right way? That's get me what I need. Pushing yourself is absolutely a way to grow. And fortunately, when I came up 20 years ago, I did it the complete wrong way because I just dove headlong into whatever. If you said it was haunted, hell, if Satan lived there, I'm on it, you know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't care. Which I don't think is quite the right way to do it, but by pushing my limits is how I've gained experience of what I'm willing to do and not willing to do, how to investigate or things to try,
Right.
things like that. So I think, you know, your goal of meeting your match is absolutely how you grow.
Hmm.
It's all
Absolutely. I feel like I've yet to really, like, I've been to some amazing locations, amazing. And it's full of emotion. It's full of this, it's full of that, but none of them have pushed me yet. And I've just yet to find that one. I will, though.
there's a couple of spots. I don't know if they're still investigating there, but um I feel like you would be able to handle that. You two would be able to handle even with your, because for lack of a better term, you guys are very much love and light style folks.
Hmm.
But if you really wanted to push yourself, there's a few places like maybe Demon House or something like that. If you guys ever got there, that probably would push your boundaries a good bit.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of places that for some reason I feel drawn to Hale's Barn Dam. Like I've always wanted to go there. And I still don't know why I haven't made my way there yet. But for some reason in the back of my mind, that place right there, it seems like if I do get there, there's going to be it's going to open my eyes up to something else. I've always felt that way about that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, there's a few spots that I would.
And having been in your position, you know, with attachments, you know, I caution people to do what I do, where I go looking for the dark stuff, because I know what can happen. And I think you probably have a heightened sense of caution when you push yourself because you know what has happened to you in the past. So, what would you say? What would you say would be your kind of, okay, here's the line I'm drawing. I don't want to go past that.
If there's any kind of anything physical, like if something's being thrown to the point to where it could hurt someone, like kill someone, you start getting pushed to where you're getting pushed down steps. Anything that involves injuring someone that's with us, ourselves, or the well-being of anyone who's in that situation at that time, then that's when I draw the line. If it's to the point where it is harming someone who is trying to investigate, and they could end up in the hospital or dead,
or with an attachment,
or with a dark attachment, then to me it's not worth the risk.
Right.
Then I would probably
see. And me, on the other hand, I would put myself. I wouldn't put my team in that position, but I would put myself in that position. And the only reason I would is because I've been in that position where I've been scratched, I've been pushed. So not to say that I'm comfortable with it, but I'm okay if it happens. Like I survived it before, or I can survive it again, kind of thing.
Right.
But
there's also
that's not for everybody.
Right. There's also other things like when it comes to Native American curses. No, sir. I don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
You can go, and I wish you the best, but I'm not going anywhere around it because I know they're very good at what they curse. No, whatever. They were very good at what they did, and it works very good, and I don't want anything to do with it. So,
I would tend to agree with you. I'm much more careful with cultural things like that, especially here in America. You know, the indigenous story is very, I'm very cautious about it. Not that I wouldn't investigate it, but I would definitely take different steps with who I had around me and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So let me ask.
Definitely all about it before you jump in it. Yes.
Right. Yeah. You know, research and knowledge, you can't substitute for that at all whatsoever. No. So let me ask you, you know, I know I asked you if you were a new investigator, what you would start out doing. If you've got a couple $100 and you want to go ghost hunting, paranormal investigating, what would you say spend your money on as far as equipment to get started?
Excuse me.
Mhm.
I would suggest probably Spirit Box, of course, SB7. You're going to need,
EVP recorder.
you will, but we only got a couple hundred. Yeah, EVP recorder. But if not, you can use your phone as well.
Mhm.
Pick up. You got to have a phone. You got to have a decent phone. So let's already suggest you have a good phone. We're not talking about that. So I say SB7, charger pack, so you can charge your phone.
Good.
A speaker to go along with your SB7, because you can't hear anything if you don't. So you need a
Right.
good speaker. And if you try to even use the one they buy with it, it doesn't last very long. So just get a good speaker. And
Oh, you're talking about the puck, the little puck speaker
Huh.
you can buy.
it might be very long. And it wasn't very loud either.
I've had mine for a while, and I've dropped the hell out of that thing, and it still runs.
Really?
Yeah.
Ours
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah, ours. But you were doing a lot at that one particular place while I was at work during the day. With that, when you first got it, man, I think you wore it out.
Maybe. Yeah, at that one at the cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably did. But that might have been what it is. So just make sure you have a speaker with it, because you're definitely going to need that. K2, I would suggest a little power pack so that you can be out there for as long as you want to catch footage. And an EVP recorder. You don't have to have a big high priced one to begin with. What, 30, 20, 30, maybe $40 pushing it might get you a nice one.
Mhm.
K2, 20 to $30. Charging thing, you can get them at Walmart for $10, and you're good. You don't need a whole lot.
Right.
You don't.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I think part of the thing that kind of turns people off to investigating is the cost of equipment. But I always tell people, you don't have to have, because here's the fact of the matter. Over 20 years, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on equipment. Now, I've got maybe $1,000 worth of equipment. And half of that I don't even use, because my style has changed in what I want to catch or what I try to catch and the way I try to catch it, where having all the fancy neat stuff is really fun to have, but when it boils down to it, camera, voice recorder, and an SB7 is really all you need, because everything else is pretty much based on that anyway.
Right. I mean, you can add, I do like our REM pod. You can add one of those eventually, and a K2 or some cat balls, little things like that eventually. But you don't need a lot to start, and you can do all that slowly.
Right. I definitely have found myself going from, I need this kind of equipment or that kind of equipment if I'm going to be any good at this, to going, all of this stuff is based on these three things.
Right.
I just need these three things, instead of having tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff anymore. I've got maybe $1,000 and I only use a few items anyway,
Right.
It's
well, we've just took off and started a live with just Vox before.
Yeah.
Right. And so that actually leads me into my next question, apps. Okay. So this is another controversial question, and I have to throw a few of these in here into the interview because it's entertaining. What are your feelings on apps? Because I know that you guys do a lot with a couple of apps. And what's been your experience with those apps? Do you recommend them? Which ones do you recommend?
You got to watch apps. Some of them are just, let's sit home and get the girlfriends and let's just play a game, basically is what you're doing. But there's some that I really feel are good. GhostTube Vox, I feel like, is really good. GhostTube isn't bad. And then Necrophonic isn't bad. those I do recommend, but I also feel like they're not expensive. You do get a better use of them if you do the paid version.
Right.
I think Vox is $11.99 for a year.
$12.99 a year.
$12.99, and Necrophonic is $10 a year. It just, I feel like you get the full experience, and it's a cheap device. And
right.
honestly, some of the responses that we have got with some of these devices is straightforward, just answer right back.
Right. Very
so yeah. So I mean, I know what, like, we're going to go back to the beginning. I know what we've caught. So here, you watch it and see what you think about them,
Right.
you know.
At first, I was skeptical of the apps when we first started using it. And I would, we would capture things sometimes that, that can't be a coincidence. Like, there's no way.
Right.
That being said, right now, at this point, with, this being right in front of us, and they said that's what it was. Like, there's no way that could have happened right now.
Right.
So I know that they can manipulate the electronics somehow. I'm not sure if they could even do it on an app that really doesn't work that well. I'm not sure, but I've found that Vox works the best. And I think because it pulls unique signatures from internet radio.
Right.
It's not necessarily a word bank like Necrophonic.
Right.
Necrophonic's just a bank that, it doesn't really spit out words. It spits out parts of words.
Human phonetic.
So, right. So you're kind of catching certain things. But with Vox, it is pulling straight. It actually uses your phone's compass to pull unique signatures from internet radio.
Right.
So if there was an intelligence that was present that knew how to manipulate that, then it could talk to you way better than just having 500 words to choose from.
Sure.
It's got infinite words to choose from. So Vox really brought my faith back into apps, because I kind of lost faith in Necrophonic. I lost faith in the one that Huff had for a while. I used. And, but when Vox came around, it kind of was like, oh, man, I can't believe they did it this way, because it seems to work so much better. And that would be my number one, if anyone's interested in apps, would be Ghost 2 Vox.
Right. And I mean, you can take them for what they are. You can believe it in them, or you can't. It doesn't really matter to me. But I can't sit here and truly say that I do not believe that a spirit can manipulate a Vox or whatever, because they can manipulate electronics all day long. So I can't say that, no, absolutely, it does not work. I can tell you that we've had some pretty good outcomes from using it. And
it sells itself, because the people want that. They're like, try Vox. Like, when we're live, they're like, try Vox. You turn to FP11, like,
yeah, and I'm like, I
man,
want to use
try Vox. Everybody else seems. So if they like it, then it's working for us. Then I see no point, then breaking anything else out at that particular moment, because I've captured a lot of good stuff with Vox. I mean, a lot of direct responses and
I've seen
things that were shocking. So,
Well, let me ask you, do you think it makes a difference having a kind of relationship with your device or app?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I guess the app would help, but I can tell you, I think that the relationship that I built with my SB7 when I first got it, and I spent every day out, sometimes up to 4 hours a day investigating. And I just really feel like I grew that relationship, and I was bonded to it.
Right.
It was my SB7.
Well,
she could actually hand it to me and nothing would happen. I could hand it back to her, start talking. So to me, it kind of proved, she's right.
Right.
You did connect, you connected with this device. So it's like a gateway for you. And that's a wonderful thing.
Well, the reason I ask you that is because I know that you guys use Vox quite a bit, and you get some really great responses, some very intelligent responses. And I've heard some responses at Miss Ford's grave I can't remember where that was at.
Mario.
Mary
Right.
Ellen Ford.
So I've heard some responses while you guys were there that I think it has to do with the relationship you have and your use and your kind of the bonding with what you're using. You guys use Vox. I've tried Vox and not had any success. I've tried GhostTube and not had any success. But then I put a lot of energy into necrophonics. Now,
Right.
and I know you guys don't really use necrophonics anymore, but I got a piece of evidence from necrophonics that made me start to think, well, maybe there is something to this app. We were doing a live communication and session out here on my property. And for anybody that knows me, we've got like 10 cemeteries around my house. Within a mile radius, there's like 10 cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a very specific name of Ed, and then came through his last name. And I won't go through the exact name, but we got a last name to that. So I started doing some digging and found out that in a cemetery that's just down the road from me, there is a man with that name buried in the cemetery. And I went and visited his grave, right? And talked to him while he was there. Just, no devices or anything. Just said hello, who I was, and I think you were at my house. But if you ever want to come back to my house and talk, please feel free. And on his headstone there, it didn't just have his name, it had his nickname on it. And he is buried with family. But it had his nickname on there. So the next time I went and did a communication session on a live, I asked if he could say his nickname through the device, necrophonics.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, his nickname came through. I think my relationship and belief in necrophonics is why I got stuff with that, as opposed to using Vox, because I don't know, I put a little bit into it, but I didn't really get anything out of it. So I was like, well, this one isn't working for me. So let me, having said that, let me ask you, do you think it's a good idea to have both? Because I think most apps are just to scare your buddies. You're sitting around for entertainment purposes, but there are a couple that I think works. And I've seen you guys have great success with Vox. I've had good success with necrophonics. Do you think it's a good idea to have, say, both and try them out, see which one's working better for you and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because you'll see us sometimes, and I may only use a device for 5 minutes, and you'd be like, well, how does she not know that's not going to start working? I just know. I know it's time to switch.
Right.
So we moved, and people probably think, well, she's being awfully impatient. No, this one's not attracting any energy to me.
Right.
Oh, it's time to switch. You just know.
You feel
So,
it.
yeah, I think it's definitely, whether it be app or spirit, like we've got the 11, the 7, S-Box, and then a few apps. And I don't care if we go through all of them if we have to find the one that works.
Right.
Because say that they may not have enough energy for one, but they have enough for this one.
Right.
Now, would you say that depending on your location, you might have more success with one than the other?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that is true.
It's just been my experience that sometimes you're in a spot, like I have great success with necrophonics, but I go to one spot and nothing, but I'm getting stuff with an SB7.
Right. I totally do think that energy levels, interference of whatever sort, I don't know what kind of interference that could be, but I just think a lot of different variables that will make up and be the reason why one device won't work as well as the other one at that particular location. Or, I mean, it could just be maybe they like one better than the other one.
And you could be like using Vox. Let's say you're using Vox and you walk into a train tunnel. It's probably not going to work.
Right.
Because you're not going to get signal for, anything to pull from.
But an SB7 or an 11 will.
An 11 will work.
Right.
So
it's
good to have multiple, devices to choose from, because it all depends on your location and what you're trying to do.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask you. I'll kind of segue into this because I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. I know you're super busy folks, but
I can do this till tomorrow, honestly.
right? Yeah, everybody that comes on says that, like, man, we have a blast hanging out and just talking about the paranormal. But
Right.
if you could tell just the entire audience, what do you hope to accomplish in your lifetime by investigating the paranormal?
If I can change just one person's opinion and open up their eyes to see that there is something else, whatever they come to the conclusion that that is on the other side, then I feel like we have part ways successfully
Right.
done what we've set out. Part ways.
That's an awesome answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just to let somebody or open somebody's eyes to believe in.
Right.
That's all.
Mine would probably be to help people understand. My main goal is to help everyone understand that when you step outside of this entire thing and look down, it's all one thing.
Mhm.
We're all connected somehow in life and in death. So that connection is always there, no matter what you believe in, what you've been taught. It is always there. Everyone should be a little more open-minded in other people's beliefs, in other people's opinions. Like we've said from the beginning, no one knows, no one sets the standards, but we all should know one thing before we leave this place, is that we were all connected and we were all one living thing.
Mhm.
Underneath, when you step outside and look down, it's just one thing. It's not multiple things.
That's
So
a beautiful
it's
answer.
I look at it from a scientific point of view, and I hope that people just open their mind a little bit more.
Mhm.
Don't let what you've been taught for years interfere with, something that may change your life, something that could open you up into something. Hell, you could be the next investigator that gets evidence that breaks through and has the scientific community come in and say, wait a second, maybe we need to be looking more into this. But we're all in this together, man, in life and death. And that's the unity of that is what drives me to do what I do. I want everyone to understand that, hey, there's a lot that we'll never understand.
Mhm.
There's a lot that I don't understand, but love is love, buddy.
Right.
And we need to continue on. We can't just give up. And
Right.
so we when we keep looking.
Beautiful answer. Beautiful answers. I love it. I love it. Those are great perspectives, really great perspectives. And I think if more people thought of it in those terms of, just being open-minded to the possibility, whether it's true or not, but the possibility that there could be something else, whether you believe there is or not, just the possibility and idea that we are more interactive as energy than people really understand. I think those are great answers. I love it. Well, guys, I don't want to take up, like I said, I don't want to take up all your day, and it's a beautiful day outside. So I really appreciate you guys coming on and talking with me and letting the viewers get to know you guys better and your ideas and opinions. I want to say
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us on.
We have to get together this year because I've designated with all the stuff that happened to me last year. I'm, that kind of being settled in, the start of this year. This is a brand new year. This is a year I get together with the people that I really enjoy and do the things that we really enjoy together. So we have to get together this year. I don't care when that is, whether that's tomorrow or 5 months from now, it doesn't matter, but we need to get together and investigate and make that happen. So, but I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. For the listeners and viewers out there, if you guys are not following these guys, I'm telling you, you're missing out. Some really great stuff. I wish you continued success in everything that you do. Congratulations on the new house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that your life slows down a little bit so it's not quite so busy. Because I really do. Right. I really do miss seeing you guys on like you were before. And I know you guys just have a lot going on, but I really miss seeing you guys. I'm just gonna tell you.
We appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
We really do.
and
We miss doing it. But there is going to come a point to where we're going to be right back on you again.
we
Well,
got ideas.
Yeah.
I hope that time comes soon. I'm not gonna lie.
We'll never stop. Even when I die, I'm going to encourage people to come communicate with me.
You're gonna come talk through my SB7, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. Well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I can't say enough. Go over and find paranormal_Amy and Spooky Communications on TikTok. You can also find the Paranormal Couple on Facebook and YouTube, which is going to be revamped, and some name changes, some content changes. But I highly encourage you guys to seek these folks out. You will not be disappointed. I guarantee it. Thank you guys again. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And to everybody out there listening, we love y'all. Bye-bye.
Love you.
you.
Peace
Bye.
be with you.
Thank you for listening to the show. And remember, we want to hear from you. Do you have questions about the paranormal, about mediumship? Do you have a story of an experience you just can't explain? Well, do us a favor. Email us at paranormalscienceinvestigators@gmail.com. And your question or story may end up on the show. And if you'd like to see our video content, you can check us out on YouTube at paranormal_investigators, or on TikTok with the same name, or if you'd like to do Instagram, it's Josh_paranormal_investigators. Come check out our video content of actual paranormal investigations and our everyday content. Just look for the yellow PSI logo. Thank you again. We'll see you on the next episode. Love y'all. Bye-bye.